All right. Thank you, all participants. I think you have made some very important commentaries about our society. And Natalie started us off with a tale of two Americas. And she's right in so many ways. We have the privileged and the unprivileged. Kind of reminds me of, the French Revolution prior to the revolution, where you had the privileged society and the unprivileged. And 3% or 4% were privileged, and they got a free ride by the other 96% who paid all the taxes. We're also hearing about domestic terrorism. It's kind of scary because we don't, after 9/11, we were thinking from the outside comes the problem. It's from within. So we have to start thinking about this. And this is where education comes in, because we have to educate people, our young people, especially those who have no, let's say, privilege of learning because of their background. And also the zealots with fabricated beliefs, Natalie said. Very, very interesting. Fabricated beliefs. This is another way of saying conspiracy theories. These are a step backward. It seems like we're regressing psychologically when you hear about some of these stories. What's going on here? Why are we not going forward? We have gone backward in some ways. And they're attacking democracy. You're seeing it. Our democratic way of life is being attacked. And America's idea should transcend above all of this other gibberish. We're forgetting our greatness and not allowing it to emerge because of our petty differences. And it's interesting, it's the 21st century, and we're still debating equality as though nothing has changed in some cases. What is going on? Again, this is where public education, and maybe we have to retrain teachers to teach civics, to teach ethics, to teach moral behavior, not religion, moral behavior. So we have to, it's got to be something missing in our DNA here, and it's education. What else can do this? It's not going to be technology, although technology can help, but look what technology has also done. Look what Facebook has done. It's polluted the internet. It's the sewer, some people call it, the sewer. So we're doing something right, but we're also doing many things wrong. We have to get back to basics, values, teach values, honesty, integrity, morality, justice. And our children, they are our future. As a teacher, I know this from experience. Children need to be loved and they need to be instructed by teachers who are dedicated to the beliefs that we share. If we do these things, in 10 years, these children will be adults. Look what happened in Georgia. The young voters that just turned 18 made a difference. Young people are our future, not old white men. Young people of all colors, of all persuasions, they are our future. So we also have the poetry of Langston Hughes that was mentioned. And we have to revert to poetry on many occasions because poets have an inner sense of feeling. They understand ideas in ways that we sometimes forget, that our feelings are important and we have to express them. And the feelings of justice have to be expressed by all of us, whether it's a poem, whether it's a song, So we have to get back to basics in our education. And also, I like the idea that was mentioned, maintain calm in the state of chaos. So this is a lesson for us at this time. We have to keep our cool. We can't lose it. I'm mad as hell. But let's be cool and calm and deliberate. Let's solve the problem. Let's clean the air, clean the water, educate our children, the basics. Let's get back to basics, real basics. Family, love for one another, compassion. And we have to hope that these values will transcend our greed and selfishness. Our system is capitalism. Now, capitalism works, but we have to keep it under control so that the goods that it produces and the services that it produces are kept in balance. We're not asking for equality across the board without any, system other than capitalism, but we do want to have fairness. All men are created equal. Now, what happens when they're born to when they die? A lot of things happen. And we understand what they are. Some people are smarter than others. Some people are faster than others. But we should all have that opportunity. Are we doing that in this country? Are we giving people opportunity? If we do, we will be surprised, because many of these people live in slums, are poor, homeless people. But if you give them opportunity, the potential may amaze us. We have seen this. We have seen this in many stories of success. So I'll close by saying this. The ticket is education, public education, from preschool right through graduate school, technical schools, education. Everybody has to be taught democracy, what it means, how it works. So civics in the early grades is very important. Many students have no sense of many important facts that they should know, even geography. It's amazing how many students don't know where certain states are, like Florida or California, and you wonder, where have these people been with all this technology? We have to bring people into the 21st century, but our public schools have to lead us and keep us performing at a high level so that our democracy does not falter. And that's what's happening. It's faltering when educated people, and one of the earlier speakers said this, that educated people sometimes are the ones who let us down, from Ivy League schools, no less. I often wondered, why do all those who support the incumbent president, who are highly educated and support him, what's their mentality? Why? Why does this happen? Now, I've narrowed it down to 3 or 4 reasons. One is money. They like policies that will make them hold on to their wealth. Okay, that's economics. We all get that. You don't want to pay more taxes, but that's not fair. We have to have fair tax system. The second one is a reason that many people will not admit in this country. It's under the radar. It's called racism. And many people don't accept that, but it's true. It's part of our DNA. And we had opportunities to correct it after the Civil War, but we blew it. We blew it. That 10-year period called Reconstruction was a time when we could have brought the Black African community into the mainstream. As they were making progress for 10 years, they were making progress. And then the election of 1876 changed everything. You can read that and find out for yourself. But I'll put it in perspective just so you can get an idea. We've been in Germany since the end of World War II, 75 plus years, protecting Germany. And did it work? Yes. Look at Germany today. It's the 800-pound gorilla in Europe. It's a democracy and it's a strong country. Can you imagine if we kept troops in the South after the Civil War to protect our African brothers and sisters so that they could go to school and college, own their own businesses, run for office into the 20th century? And after 2 or 3 or 4 generations, people would have viewed them as equals. It's happening now, but we did it the hard way. And they suffered. No more suffering. This is why we have to educate today. We have to educate our children today. So this is the medicine we need, public education. And any politician who doesn't support that is undermining our future. Thank you all for this very, very informative session. You all deserve a lot of credit, and I'm very grateful to Natalie for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda. And now to your, we can call on the facilitators. I'll let you call on the facilitators, Mr. Miranda.
Okay. All right. Well, we started with Natalie. How do I get everybody's picture on here?
I'll take care of the pictures.
Okay.
No
There we are.
worries.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John. Thank you for your comments. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed my breakout room. We had Joseph, we had Sally, we had Shaka, we had Tanya, and we were from Oregon to good old Brooklyn and NYC, and I'm in Long Island. So we had that diaspora in our room. And we went from tears to laughter. We started out with really talking about Wednesday's distraction and how it kind of made us feel, how we, after the election, had a feeling of elation that change was coming. And that change or that feeling lasted for maybe 5 days before the dissent began. And we realized, uh-oh, something is happening. This is not going the way it should go. Concern began to flutter again. Fear about what the future would actually really hold, yet hope. And those of you who have faith know that the Bible says if you have faith of a mustard seed. So although we were moving from that feeling of elation to wondering whether or not something was really going to happen. Would Biden really take office? Would he be safe? Would we really be moving in the direction that the voices, the people who voted said we would? Well, we've realized that although we exercised the right and we went and did the physical vote, we still have disenfranchisement in our families. We still are working and living with people who have different beliefs. And we're finding that maybe we're not having conversations in the right way because everyone's defensive about their position. No one wants to let go of why they think they were right. We talked about memories coming up of the Civil War when we were watching this happening on TV. Yet we know that our history has never been one of calm. And so one of our speakers says, I feel excited. I actually feel encouraged because looking at history, We have always come through battles. The history of mankind has been one of a fight and a struggle. Now we're able to look at historical events using a lens of social justice, and it empowers us and invigorates us even more. One of the persons in our room said, you know, she has the majority of family members who voted for Trump, and they actually had major discord because she wrote about how she felt and the position that she was taking. And her family members were very, very unhappy about the social media post. And they really got into a battle back and forth. But in our conversation in the room, we talked about communicating as humans, starting from the point of humanity, remembering that America is not the soil, America is really the people. And if we start with our humanity first, maybe we can have conversations in the way that I respect you because you're looking through a different lens than I am. But let me tell you what I see, and let me tell you what I hear. Let me tell you what I feel. And not attacking the politics, not attacking the label, but from the human standpoint, describing why I feel this way and respecting someone else's opinion. We agreed that we need to stop using labels. We agreed that we need to stop lumping people into one bucket. The truth is, not every Republican was represented by those that we saw on TV. That is the truth. But in our mind, we're gone with the Retrumplicans. We've put them all in one bucket. We have a lot of Republicans who are very dismayed right now. And maybe we can give them grace to have a conversation and allow them the opportunity to talk about how they feel. We also recognized in the room that the disruptors, they're not the majority. They're the minority. There are more of us, like-minded people, than there are of them. They got to the point, driven and motivated by someone, where they felt like their survival was on the line. And they felt that their actions were justified to save themselves. Well, they are in a terrible cycle, right? Generations of people who have thrived and lived on mis and disinformation. Education, conversation, definitely getting back to basics. We have felt this shift. We fortunately have hope for a future. And so we need to begin to be a beacon for others. We need to do this for the generations that will follow. And so our discussion in the room, we had someone who was the father for the first time and really feeling this concern about the future. Well, we have a chance to shape the future. And so we did leave that room feeling lighter, feeling better, feeling empowered that we are on the right path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Natalie, is there something that is going to be
Yes, here we
bringing
go.
us to a close, or?
Yep, we have our next facilitator, Bailey.
Hi. So, hi to all the familiar faces. Hi to all the new faces. I was in a phenomenal group with Prabha, Yolanda, and Pam. And I just want to talk about the feeling of this group. There was radical compassion like never before in this space. And it made me very happy. I initially expressed feeling tired but determined. And this group truly energized me. They spoke about how trivial the things that transpired on Wednesday were. And I think that it was clear that our space and our room was governed by love, which allowed them to see how trivial some of these issues and events were. We also had someone who is very close, um, only 30 minutes away from DC. And so this event hit her differently than most, or many, I should say. But um, and so she's, grappling with how to effectively navigate and move forward, and make change. And I was also happy to hear that there's a determination there as well, to use privilege. With the radical compassion and love that we experienced in that space, it 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 created a a space of, like, who you are, almost, it just doesn't matter. Your identity and in that space, like your color or the social construct, doesn't matter. But we did take time to acknowledge that privilege and oppression is something that exists regardless of how wonderful we are in this space. And so we have responsibilities outside of this. And we had the opportunity to actually do mindfulness towards the end. So we took, I think, about 2 to 3 minutes to do a mindfulness exercise, uh, and I I could say that at least I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I just really appreciate my group, and thank you all for inspiring and sharing your wise words and being an example of radical compassion.
Thank you, Bailey.
Okay. Uh,
David.
Who's, is David?
Thank you, John.
ahead.
Thank you, Melanie. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. Nice to see some new faces and lots of familiar faces. This is my son, Max, who's joined for the part of this discussion. I'm always honored and feel privileged to be able to, thank you for the shout out for the shirt, to be able to participate in connecting the dots. And I always really cherish the conversations. Honestly, I may not do the best job of recapping today because I was just so engaged and interested in the discussion group, that I thought, oh boy, I'm gonna have to talk about it at the end now. I loved the group, I always do, and this was no different. East Coast, West Coast, even one participant from Canada who educated us to let us know that the head of the Proud Boys actually was from Canada, was not what came from Canada, but I think was an immigrant in Canada, just like not native to the U.S., which was something I learned. We talked about both questions. Everyone had some terrific personal things to share that I think enriched all of us in the group. And if I had to break it into kind of a framework for recapping it, it was that we really started with this idea of how we all felt during the events that were transpiring, and then kind of shifted to what next, which I guess is that question, where do we go from here? And kind of to try to simplify, we did touch on many topics. We talked on emotion, and the emotion, you just can't escape that how closely tied your personal emotional response is to the question of race and racism and privilege. and then because of that, how you look for how we might move forward through that lens. You know, one person shared feeling anxious, anxiety, anger over what was transpiring. Another participant who was driving, you know, on a multi-hour trip, when she learned the news, had a fear of stopping because of race and what was going on. And that brought something up unique for myself, which is, of all the anger and anxiety and fear that I was feeling, I still couldn't touch that feeling of I don't want to pull over, because what if that anger gets turned on me because of my color? And so just having a moment to have that aha of, again, it's an example of my privilege. And then because of that, I think my responsibility. We talked about trying to calm others who might be witnessing what's happening and be very upset, friends, family, and in one case, even people that they don't have a relationship with. And we started to, you know, after acknowledging the anger, the fear, the anxiety, the reasons for it, what it means from a systemic perspective and a personal perspective, and revisiting that question of where do we go from here, again back to the question of race and privilege, which is, you know, we talked a little bit, one participant talked about John Lewis and the idea of good trouble, and that brought me to why I wore this shirt today, when I shared my own story of how I wore this shirt, not because I want to enrage people, but because, and I realized this tonight in this discussion, that I tend to do things like this. I wear my feminist t-shirt, I wear my Trump's a liar t-shirt and my love has no labels t-shirt, because I so want to engage with those who don't agree with me. And I hope that without my having to reach out and ask them why, that they'll see something like this and they might engage me and give me an opportunity to better understand them, and maybe to have them better understand me. And I will say that I don't want to take up too much airtime, but the final thing that we talked about a little bit is coming back to that idea of racial bias, racism, and responsibility, because you know, when we all had a chance to weigh in, it was another thing where we realized that this is a great opportunity to better define allyship, right? Because one participant mentioned to me, I might have more opportunity because of my white male privilege to have more airtime, to be able to speak use my voice more than someone who doesn't have my privilege. And recognizing that, I mean, I work in social justice often. I've done campaign after campaign, and still there are things that don't occur to me until a conversation like this brings it up. When I realize, you know, sometimes my place in the room, often, I hope moving forward even more, is not to speak and use my voice, but to be an ally and open up the lane for someone else who's not given that opportunity to use their voice, to create the opportunity for them until we're in a place where I don't have to create the opportunity for them. So that's some of what we talked about today, that was spurred by the circumstances that we've all faced over the last few days. And as always, I thank Melanie and your team and everyone else who participated for the opportunity to even explore this.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Max. Mrs. Faley.
Okay, Melanie?
Yep, Mrs. Faley's next.
I'm
Okay.
to
All right. Well, first of all, the topic of education is the topic that has always been very important to me. And so I'm going to just remind everyone, after finishing all of this, that this gave us a space to open up to feel comfort and peace in being able to share our different ideas. And that when you leave this, I'd suggest a journal entry on what this meant to you. The topic that is so, democracy, our democracy is being challenged, but then what happened in the conversation. I think your mother mentioned what kind of person, for a journal entry, what kind of a person destroys monuments of our country's foundation, if you need a topic. But I do suggest that you all write on something. And there are some people in my group who've never come to Connecting the Dots, and I encourage them all to come back and to invite their friends to come. So after that little media part, we had one, and there were all women in my group. I appreciate that. And various ages. One started with the power of rhetoric and how strong that is. You make one statement and what Trump said, and then a statement that says, no, I don't want you to go away. No, I want you to be loyal to me. And so that was brought up. The element of fear, how all of us may be in a state of fear, but also strength, one of strength. An interesting one is that the idea of America as a melting pot. There was a new statement made in my group, is that no, it's not a melting pot. It's a pot where everybody can bring a little bit of everything of themselves and of their culture and of their language and of their food together to create. That's what America is. And I thought that was just wonderful. It was a mention of the haves and the have-nots, and the people who feel the privilege and forcing that idea. But then our responsibility is to not have the situation, but to build up those people who may be less fortunate and build up through education. Another one with the headline, it was interesting. One of the election was taken away, of course, and the roller coaster effect in the tumultuous years of 2020, and which surprised all of us. But one, mirror, mirror on the wall, you finally get to see us all. And I thought that was a very interesting a statement to really to think about, what that means. And I think that's, basically it. We all feel very challenged, and I think look forward to a very different time that we have to bring forward through education and a sense of responsibility. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Staley. And Jerome.
Yes.
Do we have it?
Um,
Is there someone else speaking?
Yes.
yes, it's
Okay.
my turn, and I think that there is at least one more after me, at least. So I had a wonderful group, actually very diverse people from this country, from Canada, from Pakistan. So you can imagine that there was a wide spectrum of opinion on what we have seen, this year, this week. So we touched a few topics and a few themes, and I will start from perhaps, let's say, the more desperate topic to the more positive topic. So the first set of comments was someone who said, well, I was not really impacted by the event because I saw it as business as usual, and a continuation of what we have seen and been accustomed in the US and from the US for a long time. So in fact, this person felt like this entire event was orchestrated or planned because of the way that people came in group and with a particular objective. and didn't see much of a change for the future, and thought that also extended by saying that Trump was not an event where the Band-Aid is removed. It's just like a kind of a norm. But at the same time, we started to speak and dive a little bit more in different avenue. And one avenue was someone who said, well, myself as an American, I didn't used to pay attention to politics, but this year I did. And this year I did spend time to actually help people to understand how to submit a proper ballot, how to go through the process, and how to change and take basically the ownership of our future. And I think that was a little bit of a theme that we treated in the past, which is engagement. And of course, there is a long history of voter suppression, and this long history of voter suppression can be tackled by each of us by putting our own time into the process in terms and in order to achieve a positive outcome. And of course, what we talked about as a natural evolution of this conversation is to look at Georgia, where there was the most blunt, voter suppression, and of course, suppression of minority. And of course, Stacey Abrams came up because what has happened here? What has happened here is a president that refused to lose, and basically has definitely participated in trying to generate violence and lead it to a gang of people assaulting one of the American symbol of democracy. But Stacey Abrams didn't do that. When she lost the election and she lost her bid, what did she do? She didn't lie. She didn't go and agitate people. She didn't ask people to burn the Georgia Senate. What she did is to pull herself up and all of her energy and do exactly what this person was saying. Just door by door, block by block, city by city, just make sure that people go and vote, and make sure that there is no voter suppression, because people know their rights, they know how to vote, they know when to vote, they know how to vote. And what we basically concluded is that the future is in our hand. That's how we should see this event. The people that is elected only because there are people not going also to vote. So that part of the process is a very important process. We had also another opinion, which was, the opinion from people that are afar, and saying that seeing the event of this week was also a little bit of a heartfelt event, because what people saw in the world from America is what you expect from a third world country or a banana republic, not from the US. And from some of those countries, it felt like, a little bit of a dream broken, or a promise that is broken. The promise that America is different, that America is exceptional, that things like that would not happen in America. But, of course, America is America, and America is this melting pot, and we have to learn how to respect each other and everybody's opinion. And perhaps we should not propagate this idea that America is so exceptional that such a thing should not happen. We should, on the contrary, face what has happened and then move forward with a better understanding on how to address it. And a lot of people mentioned that Trump is not the person to blame. Those issues of racism, voter suppression, and all of that have existed in America and has been there for a long time. And it is time to not necessarily shift all the blame on one person or on one party, but to try to analyze the issue and essentially look at it in a way that we can move forward. So, practical things that we can do, such as participate to the election ourselves. And to finish essentially my expose, because you know, there is much more things that we have said, but I'd like to quote what Michelle Obama said actually this week. And what she said is that the work of putting America back together, of truly repairing what is broken, isn't the work of any individual politician or political party. It's up to each of us to do our parts, to reach out, to listen, and to hold tight to the truths and values that have always led this country forward. So it will be uncomfortable, sometimes painful process, but if we enter into it with an honest and unwavering love for our country, then maybe we can finally start to heal. And I would like to finish on that.
Thank you, Jerome.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Dr. Clifton. And sorry, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you. Can you? The group was an experience. When Natalie gave her opening talk, and she talked on chaos and finding the calm in chaos, it triggered a quote from Nietzsche that he said, "One must have chaos in one's heart in order to give birth to a dancing star." So the experience of our group, we kind of all agreed on the horror of Wednesday's events. And then we moved into a space of opposition, clear opposition, one side and another. But was most amazing, we listened to each side. We didn't fight, we didn't argue. We laid out, proponents laid out their position. And in letting this happen, we actually recognized each other's side. We didn't reach an agreement, we didn't change our mind, but it seemed to move to a position where the second question became ultimate. Well, where do we go from here? And out of these oppositions, there was an agreement on, well, it ended on the tone of individual responsibility to educate themselves, and to voice their education, to listen to oppositions, to really maybe look towards the media as being so explosive and opinionated that there has to be more of a dialogue in the media. So, and there was a lot of like quietness towards the end, but I think that it brought about an experience of let's listen to each other. Let's see if out of this confusion, out of this opposition, that we, something good can happen. And there was an agreement on what avenues to correct things, that we didn't have to stay. We don't have to stay in total opposition and disregard for the other person's position. And there's gold in each side, but we have to bring it out. And that can be the dancing star formed of chaos. So it was a quite moving experience. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clifton. Mr. Miranda, just one moment of a final thought before we introduce our musical guest.
Yes. Yes, I'll keep it short. Basically, we're talking, all of us, about rational thinking and non-rational thinking. We have both that we have heard lately, conspiracies. We have to read more storytelling to our children, because I think our children are truly our future. They really are. So we have to really work on that. We have to have correct sources for learning, where we get our information, to make sure it's accurate. We have to be aware of idol worshiping of all sorts that may destroy our rational thinking. We have to listen to children, because children are telling us things that may give us clues as to how we connect with them better. And we have to watch for brainwashing. It sounds strange that in our country, this is something that happens, but it does. And we have to be keen so that we are aware of these attempts to convert people. And so all of us are involved in this. Our democratic way of life is at stake. So we have to take care of the little things, especially, as I said, and I keep saying this again and again, we have to educate our public, especially our children. If we do these things, we will bear the fruit of our labor, and many of these problems will be resolved. Thank you very much.